Welcome to Rewilding Love. This season is with a couple on the brink of divorce.
This is episode number 23, an interview with Derrick Mason.
And when I saw that, I instantaneously saw that I didn't even have to sell drugs anymore.
You're in prison, but yet you're feeling free and liberated.
My vulnerabilities, when I lay them all out, then they become my strength.
It allowed you to forgive yourself too, let go of judgments towards yourself.
Be right till the end of the visit. She was on her guard, waiting for me to spring a trap on her.
The tango of death was avoided.
I can basically be anybody I want to be.
Yes, there's a sort of empathy snowball effect.
For the first time in my life, I said, no, I'm in prison. I'm in the worst place I could be, possibly, I think. But I still can manage to feel better than I've ever felt in my life.
The feeling of that surrender and letting go is so beautiful.
That allows me to forgive other people and see the innocence in other people.
When you have that connection with that love and that well-being and that peace of mind, it's like the relationship flourishes.
And if I show up as love, then hopefully be the change you want to be means other people will show up as love.
You lead with love. I think there's just something so beautiful and so genuine about you.
Who knows what the ripple effects are going to be from what you're sharing here.
You are listening to Rewilding Love with me, Angus Ross.
And me, Rohini Ross.
Rewilding Love is a podcast about relationships.
We believe that love never disappears completely in relationships. It can always be rewilded.
Listen in as we speak with our guests about how they share the understanding behind the rewilding metaphor in their work.
And how it has helped them in their relationships.
Relax and enjoy the show. Well, this was a great interview, and I really enjoyed it. And I know that you did too. I think Derrick did as well. There were one or two instances where maybe my level of professionalism might be brought into question. I think that the rule of thumb in future is that I should be more than ready to go come time for you to press record. And in this case, I had done a couple of back-to-back sessions. So Derrick got to witness me having to set up all the paraphernalia, vis-a-vis mics, etc., do a sound check and various other things. And it was a bit of a shambles, to say the least.
Well, I do want noted for the record that I did put the appointment on your calendar for the podcast interview. And when I put it there, there was nothing else there.
Well, I don't know. Is that true? Yeah. Because I definitely had 2 back-to-back appointments. I think that the last appointment, it was just one of those situations. I just couldn't end it abruptly because it would have been very insensitive to the content of the conversation. So I'm trying to do my best to unwind things. I should have given them a lot of forewarning as to the appropriate time to stop, but I didn't.
Well, live and learn. But I did want for the record that your morning was open when I booked it.
Well, you must have booked it long ago then.
Well, that would mean that you booked your sessions around it back to back.
I guess so. And I guess also, which will probably become apparent when you listen to this podcast, that I wasn't even perhaps aware that I was recording a podcast interview. Such was my rushed disposition.
Yeah, it was probably that was a little disorienting for our guest.
It was certainly disorienting for me not to know what the hell I was doing.
Well, I guess the good news is you have a busy schedule.
I guess I am thankful and grateful for that, yeah.
You can learn some buffering skills in terms of putting buffers in your schedule.
Yes, buffering skills, definitely.
I don't know what to call it. I leave gaps between my appointments.
Because buffering, I think in terms of computer technology, and that's that little spinning ball, that definitely my mind has a tendency to get into that state of mind where I feel like I'm buffering. I'm waiting for everything to come back online and behave in an appropriate fashion. So anyway, this shouldn't be about me and my shortcomings. The purpose of this interview is really just to celebrate an extraordinary man who has had some incredible life experiences and has got some really insightful things to say. I just thought he was amazing, and I was really inspired to listen to what he had to share.
I was as well. So enjoy the interview with Derrick Mason. Thank you so much for joining Angus and myself on this podcast. And I'm laughing because we didn't get this part as part of the recording, but it's been like a comedy of errors with Angus trying to get his microphone to work. It's almost like a slapstick Three Stooges, but there was only one stooge.
And well, I'm glad to provide the comic relief for sure. I'm quite out of breath at this point. You guys need to do the heavy lifting as far as the conversation is concerned, but at least the first 5 minutes where I managed to get some oxygen in my lungs.
We'll let you get your composure, Angus. Don't worry.
Okay.
So, Derrick, we're so grateful to have you join us. And as you know, the initial part of this podcast was actually a recording of a couples intensive that Angus and I did. And it just shares the journey of that couple navigating their way. And as we say, we don't sort of say how it all unfolds because we don't know how far along people are in listening to that journey. But as that has come to completion, we wanted to have other people who share and work from the same understanding that we do on as guests to be able to see the variety of ways that this understanding is impactful in lives. And I heard you speak on other people's podcasts and was really impacted by what you shared. And so we're just grateful to have you here with us to learn along with you.
Thank you, Rohini. It's an honor to be here, to be invited here. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Derrick, you're currently a director at Beyond Recovery. You're also on the board of directors for the Three Principles Global Community. Mm-hmm. And you came across this understanding in around 2017, but it is quite the journey, as you've shared. And so I would love to hear you share, in your own words, how you came across the understanding and how it impacted you.
Yeah, Rohini, I'd love to share that. Somehow before I got this understanding, I wasn't that sort of person that would be openly talking, and I was like withdrawn. But now I just get to love to share my story every opportunity. So I got the understanding, like you said, in 2017. I was serving a 5-year prison sentence at the time. I was about a year into it, and I just moved to a new prison, Only Prison, and that's where Beyond Recovery were running programs, and they run 3 principles-based programs. And funny enough, it was an inmate who got me into it because he saw me as a big fella called Dave. He saw me and he started telling me about the 3 principles and how to change his life. And he was so enthusiastic. And I thought, okay, yeah. And he goes, you should do the course. And I just to appease him, I just said, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And I walked off and I thought I'll never see him again. And this is so funny. The next day I was in a shower. They got like 4 people showers. So I'm in the shower showering, and I look over and it's Dave in the end cubicle saying, yeah, you're going to do that cool. I thought, whoa, how the hell is he stalking me? What's going on here? So I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. But the way he was so enthusiastic, he started to tell me, because I couldn't just leave the shower straight away. So he had my ear for about at least 15, 20 minutes. So I was there showering, he was telling me how much he'd changed his life, what he used to do and what he doesn't do now. And this guy I think Dave's about just short, shy of 7 foot, 6 foot, 6.5 foot or something like that. He's telling me he cries when he watches X Factor, he cries at everything. And he was just so open with it. And something made me say, maybe there is something in it, other than just say, yeah, whatever, mate.
Yeah.
So then I applied to go on the course, or he got me on the course. When I went on the course, I thought he also told me that it would give me my DCAT, which would let me go to an open prison, which would let me serve my sentence a little bit easier. So I'm trying to work the system. Mm-hmm. So I thought, all right, that's what I'm really going there for, but let me just have a look because I'm curious. Didn't think there was nothing wrong with my life. Didn't think I thought I was in good shape. I just had an occupational hazard, if you could say that, found myself in prison. So I went on the course, and I remember that this is key. At the beginning of the course, they said, what Jacqueline said to me, what do you want out of life in this course that you want to change? If you could have anything. And everybody had all these different ideas. I want to different relationship with money. I want to have a different relationship with my girlfriend. I want to have a different, and everything everybody said, she said they can achieve. But I remember in my head thinking, when she said about the relationships, I just said, no, that was ring fence. That can't solve my relationship, because I know how I felt about my relationship at that time. And I just thought, yeah, it can change the world, but it can't change my relationship. I'll accept that. So anyway, yeah, and I like to intellectualize things over the groups. It was a 10-week course, and I like to intellectualize things and put them in a box and put a label on it. And I weren't getting anything, because people were coming back after 2 or 3 weeks saying, oh my God, this thing's amazing. Like, oh my God. And I was like, what have I missed? Like, I must have missed something. And they said to me, no, you're intellectualizing it. You just let the information, what we're telling you, just wash over you, and just how it sits with you. Some people get in different ways, and only when you hear something that's key to you will you get something. And another thing, the guy who told me that had his daughter was killed in a car accident like 3 years earlier, and he said he had so much hatred for the guy who done it. Since getting this understanding, he had totally forgiven the guy, and he had pure love for the guy, and he was compassionate about how he felt about killing his daughter. And from he told me that, I just said, I'm going to take his advice, because he's got a powerful story.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we had a normal group. I went back to my cell. I was lying on my bed, and I was watching some insignificant TV show. I can't remember what it was, but something on the show just keyed into something that was said in group. And it made me say, wow, my mum isn't to blame for everything. My mum isn't the reason why I done this, or the reason why. Why have I always thought that? And I sat up, and I realized that was all made up by me. But that had been the backbone of my life. That was the foundation of my life. So if that was a lie, then how am I still standing? How am I still alive? Who am I then? And that was the first insight into, like, wow, I could be anything I want to be. I basically said, because of my mum and how she treated me, or the path that I had gone on and sell drugs, and it was because of her. And when I saw that, I instantaneously saw that I didn't even have to sell drugs anymore. That was a reason, like, yeah, that's why I do it. But if that's not true, then I don't have to do that then. And I didn't have an option as to what to do otherwise. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't even know I was going to stop selling drugs. I just knew I didn't have to do that anymore. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the power. That was the power that set me on the path to just follow that feeling. Because ever since then, I've just been following that feeling.
That's really powerful. And that was after just a couple of workshops?
That was after week 7.
Right.
After week 7, yeah.
Participating in the series. And I really appreciate what you said about how you noticed you were intellectualizing and nothing was landing for you. So could you say a little bit more about what was different when you weren't intellectualizing? Because I think a lot of people intellectualize and they're probably even listening to this podcast looking like, what happened? Like, I don't understand what happened to him. There's a part missing. So yeah, anything more you could say about that?
The way I could simplify it to me is, we'll be in group and somebody would say something or their opinion, and whatever they're saying, I am either relating to it or not relating to it. If I can relate to it, that's one category. So it's gone in the category that I can relate to. So then whatever I know about it now gets put on top of it, mixed up, and then now it means what I've experienced along with what they've just said. And then that's where I'm going to find out what it is they're talking about, or how that's going to impact me. And then it can go the other way. I haven't experienced it. So what do I know about it? Oh, my sister had something like that happen to her. Oh, so then what I know about, and then it's not what they said now, it's what I've experienced and put on it. And it's in a label. And then by the time they're finished, it's either they just want sympathy, or they're just saying that because they just want a reaction. There's going to be a reaction that's come out of, when you put it all in a computer, the answer comes out as to what your reaction is meant to be. But to simplify it, to say not to put a label on it, just to hear whatever everyone's saying to me with no history on it, no labels, no nothing, just what does that mean? Like, I'm a babe, what does that mean? I don't know what that means. And then for me, it would sit in my head, and then a thought would spring into my head like, oh, what does that mean? And then I'll play with it with nothing on it. And then sometimes it just, like I said, but the insight I got with my mum, like, I couldn't even remember what it was that was actually said. I just know that I sat up and I just said, wow, so that ain't So it's not my mum's fault. And that's the key part that I remember. But just through not because if I would have done what I've done usually, put it in a box, it would have had a label on it and it wouldn't have been able to look like, because that was a new thought that I had. So then that's brand new. So if I've had a label on it, it's not new, it's something that I know and that can't change, sort of thing. I hope that sort of makes sense as to,
yeah,
that's how I sort of see it.
It makes sense to me because it's kind of like suggesting that when you had that thought about your mum, that you had the space to have an insight. And so prior to that, it was all about looking in the hard drive, trying to sort of figure out, well, yeah, where is the answer? It must be in there somewhere. And then obviously, you know, you realize that by continuing to look in that direction, the answer isn't there. And when you like let that go and allow yourself to be present, because that's exactly what it sounds like to me, then you settle down, you have this insight, oh, wow, it's not my mum's fault. That comes through as a feeling, as a point of truth. And if you don't mind me asking, I'm curious about what was the insight around, you know, your mother. I know I'm sure we kind of all maybe have a sense of what you experienced, but it would be nice to know your point of view on what was that insight showing you about your mother at that point?
So my mum was a single parent. She had me when she was 19, and she had my older sister when she was 17. I was born in 71. My older sister was born in 1970. So she was strict disciplinarian. Basically, what I thought her love was, it wasn't, I wanted it to look a certain way. And she presented her love in what she could do her best in the moment, in the time. But I misinterpreted that as she didn't love me, and she'd never schooled me on how to be in social circles. And it even got to, I even thought of this today, it got to a point where because my mum was my mum, my single parent, that was all my love went to my mum. And through her being busy and being disciplinarian on me, and I sort of switched the love off inside me, because I said, I can't get hurt no more by my mum. So I switched off. And then by switching off, that allowed me to do everything that I shouldn't have been doing. It was like an excuse. But when I realized that it wasn't true, my mum was only trying her very best, and she loved me as much as the day that I was born. When I've got children now, so the day I looked into my children's eyes, she loved me like that every single day. But it's just how she showed up. I was looking at that and taking that as, I have to do this and I have to do that. And when I realized that wasn't true, basically everything I've ever done, most of the things I've ever done, I said, yeah, it's because my mum, and because my mum, or because my mum. Not up front, this is a thing, not up front, deep down somewhere, because I would never tell anybody before, oh, I'm in prison because of my mum. You don't say them things, or you don't think them things.
Right.
But it come to me on that level. I hope that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. So in a sense, it sounds like what you're saying is you just really saw your mum's psychological innocence, and just see that she was just doing her best, doing the very best that she could. And wow, it's beautiful.
And in the seeing of that, what I hear is it freed you up. So yeah, could you say some more about what happened once you saw that? Because it sounds like it was pretty profound. It was.
Because sadly, or not even sadly, unfortunately enough, my mum passed away 2 weeks before I was sentenced to this prison sentence. So I buried her 2 weeks before I was locked up. So when I had that insight, I thought, I can't investigate that. That's past. I can't. But I said, hold on, I know someone else I got a lot of thinking about. I've been with my partner for near enough 18 years, and I know it's all her. I definitely know it's her. That's different. Watch. Okay. I'm gonna prove this theory wrong. So then I started to investigate that and lean into that. And it was uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable when I first looked in. I said, no, I don't like that person. But it's the same thing what you said, Angus. It's not when I had that insight, that feeling that I got, I just know that if I leaned into that uncomfortability a little bit more, I would see it. That feeling was still present. And then I had to do some, not experiments, but I had a visit once where she came to see me, and she was bringing my son. The car had broken down, so she was borrowing someone else's car, and she's got a history of being late when she's coming on the visits, and being on a visit, sitting by yourself with all the families running around. It's not nice, and you feel a bit, I used to get up in my head and start sweating and thinking everyone's talking and looking, look at him, you ain't got no friends, sad. So I'm sitting on the visit, sitting there, sweating, thinking, oh, I'm up in my head. And I just said to myself, hold on, I was about 8-9 weeks. I was coming up to the end of the brother recovery course. And I was like, oh, what did they say? Right, they say, where's my head? Right, think. Right, okay, be present. Do you know what? Just be present. Just be present. Just calm down. Just be present. Nobody ain't talking about you. Just be present. And I said to myself, and as I just done that, and then a thought come in my head like, oh, do you know what? The car's broken down. She's had to borrow somebody else's car. That's obviously going to take time. And you know what? It's over 100 miles she has to drive to see me. Yeah, that's going to take time. And she's bringing my son. I know he's just born, so he's going to be difficult to get. She really does want to come and see me. Wow, so how's she going to come and see me and I'm going to give her a hard time? No, just relax. And as I thought that, I just relaxed on the visit and we're just looking at all the visitors' faces, nodding at them like, and the officer came over and said, is she going to be long? And I said, oh, I don't know. The officer was on my wing and she goes, oh, give me her number and I'll phone her just to see how long she's going to be. So the officer phoned her and she said, yeah, she's going to be about 15-20 minutes. I said, all right, no problem. To her, that's 45 minutes. But yeah, all right, that's sweet. I just relaxed even more. Even more. Then when she came on the visit, this was a big insight for me. When she came on the visit, she had like a defense mode on. But because I'm so easy and free, because she's late, she's expecting me to react. So she's got her defense. So when I'm like, hello, you're right. She's not, hello, you. She's like, yeah, I'm all right. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? She's like, yeah, take the son. And I'm like, wow, I can see how if I was in my head, I've never seen that before. And we've been on visits where she's been late and I probably acted the idiot and she's turned up like that, but I haven't even seen that before. And I said, wow, when I was soft and happy, she never just break and just become soft and happy. Right till the end of the visit, she was on her guard, waiting for me to spring a trap on her. But that just showed me that, wow, it takes two to get involved in that game. But I've always been more than the willing participant to play my part. And I just said, you know what, I'm not playing that game anymore. And it's funny enough, I could say to her now, do you remember that visit you came on and what did I say to you? And she said, oh, you said this weird thing to me like, don't worry, everything's going to be okay. And she moved her hand like, what? No, he's definitely got a trap for me. But yeah, that was a key moment for me to know that everything with my relationship with my partner had been made up as well. Everything.
I really appreciate the example that Derrick's sharing here. There's two things that stand out to me. One is after having that insight related to his mother and how she wasn't to blame for how his life is, and that was a misunderstanding that he'd been holding on to within himself, that after that he was able to have greater level of empathy and compassion for his partner who was visiting him that day, and that he was able to put himself in her shoes and see things from her perspective, and that when he did that, that completely shifted how he related to her when she came in.
Yes, it's a sort of empathy snowball effect that just keeps on building, and I feel like we've witnessed this, I'm sure, within our own relationship and the clients that we work with, that this understanding offers a new lens through which to see the world and the relationship, and empathy and compassion usually follow pretty quickly.
And he also said that he saw how it takes two to get into that dance of anger, and that even though he was in a warm place and she wasn't, she was still defended, he didn't need to engage in it, and that when he didn't engage in it, it didn't go to the same place.
Yeah, very much so. The tango of death was avoided. If there is a tango of death, I don't know.
I mean, I think that's an important point for couples to be aware of, that it does take two to get into that entanglement.
Entanglement.
Rather than focusing on the word tango, do you agree with my
I like
point?
the word tango. It's got a nice ring to it. Tango. Tango, tango, tango. I'd like to call one of my pets Tango.
That is quite a good name. Especially if it was maybe an orange cat.
Oh yeah. Well, anyway, you got you jumped on that bandwagon pretty quickly, didn't you? Anyway, to answer your question, it does take two to tango.
Thank you.
I love that story. I just have such a brilliant visual of her arrival, and like, I just all the defenses up, ready to do battle, and it's like, whoa, what? He's not ready to do battle. But there's something sinister about this.
That's even more nerve-wracking.
Exactly. How do I defend myself from this?
From this, yeah, this is new.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And so how did things unfold from there, Derrick? So those are, really big insights and shifts. How did it continue to unfold for you?
Well, because this is out of the relationship I was in there, so it couldn't really advance. It did advance in a way over the phone, and because a few things be done over the phone where I had insights, but I started to notice just because I'm not used to, I probably still do, I get anxious. I won't say suffer from it, but I get anxious. I'm the sort of person that, and this is something else that I used to tether back to my mum because of the discipline side of it. And I used to be just anxious in social circles, and I used to blame her for that. And so I'm in prison now, that is not the kind of disorder to have. So I'd have my little bravado or my little mask on. But then I always thought that there was something that I had to do. Like I had to, like if I'd done something confident and everyone was the center of attention and everyone liked me, and then that would take away the anxiety, or there was always something to do. But this sort of understanding pointed me to, no, there's nothing to do. That is thought as well. So I used to go out on the wing, on the landing, and just stand out in the middle. That was my nightmare, to stand by myself and think, oh, look at this guy, he ain't got no friends. And I used to think that all the time. So then when I got this understanding, I would stand out there and I'll lean into that uncomfortability, and I'll say, no one ain't talking about you. And I'll look around and no one ain't really talking about me. No one ain't laughing at me. No one ain't. People who come up to me and start talking to me. And I'm like, wow, okay. So, and the more I just settled myself to know that so much more of the things what I believe to be true were thought, not just about my relationships. Even, to do with my relationships with the people around me, my next door neighbors, and the work that I had in there, the jobs. I used to think I was just insignificant and get a job but then I started to get noticed, and I started to get promotion, and I started to become number one in the workshops. And I was like, wow, what's going on? And before we'd be in a group and I'll not be talking, I find myself talking, and just it's sort of a big thing just dropped off of me to say, who is this person? Like, I can basically be anybody I want to be. And whereas before, my main philosophy would have been, this is great, but it's no good to me now. As soon as I walk out the gate, that's when I'll give this a try, because this looks like it's good. No, for the first time in my life, I said, no, I'm in prison. I'm in the worst place I could be, possibly, I think, but I still can manage to feel better than I've ever felt in my life. Mm-hmm. And I felt a freedom when I felt that moment, that like a liberation from all my thinking and all the judgment and all everything. Just for the moment, I felt that freedom, and I just know I could possibly feel as free as I felt in my life whilst in prison. And that was beautiful. Like I said, Angus, it's all been that feeling, and it's all the same feeling, but it's all just connected. Is the best way I can sort of describe it.
And what a powerful example to show that feeling is inside, because you're having that when you don't have outer freedom, you're in prison, but yet you're feeling free and liberated. And that's such a clear indicator that has to be coming from within.
And for me personally, I've been like quite a few places all over the world, and been on beaches and been in clubs with money in my pocket, and not felt good at all. Just not felt good. And then to have a glimpse of that feeling in where I am just turned everything on its head and just told me, do you know what, if I can see that I was on that beach and felt like that, and I'm in here and feel like this, then everything I'm looking at is made. Like what Sid says about you create your reality, that is exactly what's going on. And and I've just grown into that and seen that more and more.
Well, I love that term you use, leaning into the uncomfortability, because I feel like, I think about my life and the way that I have been sort of reluctant to sort of step into the unknown where it feels uncomfortable. And so I would withdraw into what I know, or stay with what I know, because that's something that's familiar with me. And so I was reluctant to step into the unknown on that basis, particularly on a social level. But that idea of sort of leaning into the uncomfortable, for me, is about having a sense and a trust that I have this divine spiritual nature that's really there to aid and abet the whole process. Every time I'm faced with something that feels unknown and uncomfortable, and just having that trust is like, that's, for me, that's where that beautiful feeling is. I'm assuming that's what you're pointing to, but that's what I feel like now. That's what I want to become familiar with, to expand into that. Because when I stay with what is known, basically, typically, I'm just suffering. I'm just suffering with an old, stale, stagnant thought that has held me back. And always there's that invitation to sort of try on something new for size, have a new experience, and trust that we have this GPS that will, will guide us in a sense.
That's beautiful, Angus. That, you know what, that's you just blueprint. Sometimes you put some words, you just said that over exactly what I felt. That's beautiful. Because, it's when I had the first insight with my mum, like I said, I'm supposed to crumble on the floor and I'm not meant to be anybody, but I was all right. So then I could challenge certain things and know that I'm going to be all right. If I can challenge it and I come up with the same feeling that I came up when I got the glimpse after I've had that insight about my mum, then I know I'm going to be all right. And that just makes me more comfortable to lean into the uncomfortable, because I know there might be that reward at the end. And certain things that I've uncovered, like I said, I've uncovered certain things, just leaned into myself, and things that I don't feel the proudest of, or don't feel good about, or don't feel good about the way I was thinking, or what actions I took off of the way I was. Those things that have me, like, again, walking the street, have me scratching my nails, thinking, I'm a bad person. But if that doesn't come with that comfortability feeling, the innocence, you just see the innocence in it, then you can accept it and move on and just know that it's all right. And it all comes from that feeling, of that comfortability feeling. That's the comfort blanket. From you've got that, you can basically tackle, I can see anything in myself. And I know I've got that comfort blanket to make me handle it and move forward from there. And you just said, the way you said it, I just love that, Angus. Beautiful.
Oh, thank you. And the comfort blanket for me just grows and grows with each new reference point I have, where I get to try that on for size. Yeah. I want an extra large comfort blanket.
That's what we want. That's what we want.
What I heard in what you just said, Derrick, is that not only did that insight, or these insights, help you to forgive your mom and other people in your life, that it allowed you to forgive yourself too, let go of judgments towards yourself.
I think that's the big one, because I can't really forgive my mum, because she was just being her, and it's me. I can only forgive. That's the way I was looking at it before. Like, I have to forgive my mum, because when she passed, like I said, we had a not a fractious relationship, but we never have a relationship. I used to go to her house, and she'd be in her room, and I'll stand at the door. I'll say, hello, mum. She'd say, hello. She'd look at the TV. I'll say, yeah, nice weather. Yeah, okay. I'm just going to get something from the kitchen. And that was it. We didn't have like a rapport so then when she got ill, she got ill with cancer, and she was bedbound, housebound. So I looked after her, and the 2 months that I looked after her, she totally dropped all her thinking about what I'd done and who I was. And I was just her son again, and she was just my mum again. And it was just the most beautiful time that I spent with my mum. And there weren't no regrets or anything, but I realized there was still that little thing in the corner of, but my mum, you still done all that, I love you, mum, and I haven't got that thinking, but you still done all those things. That's still there. So when I got this insight now, just to know that there's nothing for me to forgive from my mum, is how I saw it, and I innocently saw it like that as a child. And same thing you said, Angus, thoughts that you've had from I was 8 or 9, I've packaged, dragged around with me, and made them relevant in this basically now, or just before now. So to get rid of that and know that I just forgive myself, and from I can forgive myself, then that makes it easier. That in turn makes it easier for me to give other people. Because when I see somebody else do something, I know that they're coming from the same innocent place I was coming from when I'd done something similar. So then that allows me to forgive other people and see the innocence in other people. And even that, every day, that's unfolding and unpeeling for me on levels that I never believed could be possible as well.
Yeah, so inspiring. Can you fill us in terms of, you have these insights, you participate in the Beyond Recovery program, you're really impacted by it. How do you go from there to now being a director in Beyond Recovery? What was that journey like? And on the 3PGC board of directors as well.
Yeah. Do you know what? I never saw none of this coming. I never got the principles and said, right, you know what? I'm going to start sharing. In actual fact, I was pretty clunky. When I got these principles, I was like the guy who got me into it. I was saying to everybody, yeah, the 3 principles, it's my conscience and fault, yeah? And they're looking at me like, okay, yeah, we're just going over there. Oh shit, he's coming. And I was like, what's going on over there? It's the best thing in the world. You can feel free in prison. And they're like, no, don't want to hear it. So I just thought, no, I'm giving up this game. I'm just going to use this to what I've seen. So then I came out, I said, right, I'm definitely going to use this to not commit crime again. I don't need to do that no more. It's told me that, the feelings told me that, don't worry about the boss in the future or the unknown. As long as I just know that something will come and just be in the moment, then I'll be all right. Those other options won't come on the table. And I got a painting and decorating job. Done that for about a year. And then in November 2019, no, so let me go back. I moved prison to a different prison where Beyond Recovery wasn't facilitating. And I was in that prison for about 8 months. And then I was let out. Then I was released, got the painting job. Didn't have no contact with Beyond Recovery. Got to a low spot in my life, like arguments with the mother of my children. I thought, oh, you know what, one day the feeling that I had from Beyond Recovery, and it's just like, yeah, I want some of that in my life. So I went on Facebook, went on their website, emailed everybody, and everybody that I had a connection with Beyond Recovery, I emailed them. And then about 2 days later, Jacqueline messaged me back saying, oh yeah, good to hear from you, Derrick. There's a conference happening on Saturday, and that was a 3PGC UK conference, 2019. So then they said, yeah, she said, do you want to come? I goes, yeah, of course. Came there. Somebody never turned up that was meant to speak for Beyond Recovery. She asked me to stand in. I was like, what? No, what? I haven't seen you guys for like over a year. No, what do you mean? She's like, no, don't worry, Derrick. You're not ready, but you're always ready. And I was like, what? Yeah, okay. Yeah. I can, because in the time that I've been still having insights on a lower level. So I'd still be, the principle that still was in me, but I wasn't seeing anything like proper. I thought I needed to be in the company to advance it. So I spoke at the conference and I felt brilliant when I spoke at the conference, and everything just came back to me, and I was just like, wow, that was brilliant. It was about 8-9 people in the crowd, but I just thought the feeling was just brilliant. And then 2000, and then I started to just engage with Beyond Recovery again, just turning up to some of their meetings. Then in 2019, November, they said they were doing a knife crime program in Nottingham prison, and if I wanted to come and do some 3 days a month. So I said, yeah, I'll jump on that, I'll do that. Done that in Nottingham, had a major impact. My first time going back in prison on the other side, and all the residents, when they saw me, they was like, oh yeah, they're talking to me and saying, oh, if you can do it, then I can do it. Why can't I come back in? And they hadn't even spoke about the principles yet. They were still saying, wow, you can come back in? Yeah, that's something how'd you do that? When we run the group, they like my story and whatever impacted them, and we had the total turnaround. And from that, the feeling that I got from that group just told me, you know what, I need to be in and around this feeling, and this is the work I need to do. And then lo and behold, March 2020, Jacqueline offered me a job with Beyond Recovery on a more permanent, on a part-time basis, but more frequent than 3 days a month. And I jumped to that opportunity. And since then, I've been out of my comfort zone doing emails and doing other things and paperwork and things, but it's been a bit daunting, but yeah, I just showing up. I just found that just showing up as me is always good enough. That's something that I learned that I never thought was good enough. I thought I always had to put on a mask, and that's how I would get results. But now I've realized that just showing up as me is more than enough. And the more I believe in that, the more I just show up as me, the closer I stay to me. And then, I was doing that with Beyond Recovery. We spoke at the conference, which was virtual in last year, 2020. And that was just after the George Floyd incident and the Black Lives Matter. And that was another one, a big insight for me. Because, previous to that, I've always bought into this year. Blacks were oppressed, and the only way for us to sort it out is, we need to take to the streets, or we need to show them, and we need to do this, and we need to do that, and it's all them, it's all them, it's all them. Sound familiar, innit? It's all them, it's all them, it's all them. But when George Floyd happened, it kind of bubbled it, and everybody was feeling that. But I just this is something what I'd felt all my life, and I just weren't feeling it. It was just like, that doesn't sit right with me anymore. What the hell's wrong with me? What's going on? And I had to sit with it, and I just didn't say anything to anybody. And then one day it sort of just hit me. It's the same thing with my mum and whatever. It's not looking outwards and it's what I, and not even what we as Black people, what can I do? I can only just show up as me. And I think that thing said, be the change you want to be the change you want to see in others. That's all I can do. And with nothing else on it, no hate. I ain't trying to put no hate out there. I'm just trying to put love. And if I show up as love, then hopefully be the change you want to be means other people will show up as love. And that's the only way I see to get through that. And from I saw that, everything else didn't make sense to me. Nothing else made sense to me except just show up as myself with love. And that was a major shift for me. And I was sort of working through that just before, in and around the conference. And when I was at the conference, that's when it happened. That's when the light bulb hit me. And I just spoke it like that. And I think that's when Aaron said he was impacted, and the board noticed me, and then they started to, they put out things for us. There's a place in the board. And I just thought, let me just apply for it there to see what happens there. But then I realized, this is pretty serious. I'm actually with a chance there. Like, whoa. And then all the old thinking kicks in about, what do I have to do? What do I have to blag to try and get in there? What lie do I have to tell? And it's the same thing, just hold on. You got there by just showing up as you. So all I can do to just stay true to that is to show up as me. And it sounds so simple but by the time you get in your head, you want to run away from you, because just that old thinking kicks in, whether you're not good enough, and all right, you was good enough before, but now you need just to put this little thing on just to cover it up, and you'll be, and you just have to keep on fighting and just say, no, I am good enough. I am good enough. And for me, I can only speak for myself, but that's just like the little battle I have to go through. Because even before this interview, like I said, I was nervous. And then when the little technicals, and I started laughing, I thought, wow, where's that gone? But then that's interesting, because one laugh and a thought later, and it's like, wow, where did that feeling go? But it shows up all the time for me like that, man. It's beautiful. Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I love the fact that there is so much commonality in, I think, for so many people, in having this experience with this understanding. And certainly if you want to go into it as a coach or a teacher or a trainer or whatever, that I came into it constantly comparing myself to others, constantly feeling like I need to learn a script, I need to follow the company line. And even having those thoughts and being told, all you need to do is just be yourself, show up. And the way that it was tabled in those days is like, just trust your grounding, come from your grounding, tell your story. And I never fully trusted that until I did. And then I oh, wow, I can be me. Who knew? That's all that's expected here. I just have to show up and be me. And that was so liberating. And it was so wonderful just to suddenly I just found like I suddenly became comfortable in my own skin. Like I'm good enough showing up and being me. That was huge. So I love the fact you kind of saw it on those terms too, in your way. And I think we all kind of have a bit of that going on. It's like, we feel like we have to be something else. We have to, put on this mask, like you say, because that's what's socially acceptable or what's expected. And really all that's expected when you get down to brass tacks is like, they just want to see who you are.
And that's okay. You're okay to show
totally
that.
Okay.
Yeah. And I've just realized when you said, Angus, as well, the two inmates who impacted me when I was in there, Dave and Alfie, they've got one had a child who had died, one had brought up a child and had a serious drug problem. And when they were sharing their stories, I'd always thought, wow, I could never be them. I'm always going to be like this little just person in the background. But yeah, I'm having insights. But wow, no, they've got a story. And I never thought I could really like, because I always saw my stories now. Nobody wants to hear what I've got to say. My story's not interesting. And then when I got that power from just telling my story and people seeing that, yeah, it is okay for me to tell people how I am or where I am or where I've been and show up as me. It's more than all right. It's not more than it is. It's always all right. It's always all right. It's always all right. And I just love being in that space.
Because people love the truth, don't they? Just love the truth. They just want to see someone come from that space. And that's so compelling and captivating.
That's why I say something else as well when I say, was it the vulnerabilities? My vulnerabilities, from I lay them all out, then they become my strength. Because when I thought they were vulnerability, because I was hiding them away and I didn't want it, but I put them on the table and say, there they are. Have a look. And then when everybody dissects it, it's still there. And that's me. That's I can't hide from that. So that's how I feel.
That's profound.
And there's something so healing for all of us when someone shows up as themselves. It really helps us give ourselves that permission too, to realize that, hey, I can just show up as myself too. And maybe I'm enough as well. And the truth in that and the feeling in that, even though, as you're saying, it's really simple, it's really profound. And we have so much conditioning as human beings that it can be really hard to do because of that noise that we get. I mean, I can relate to what you're saying as well. I've lived that too. So it's just being able to break free from that, as you talked about that freedom you experienced within, like that's the freedom of just being you. And the feeling of that surrender and letting go is so beautiful. And of course, we want to share it with others. Like you're saying, you're running around trying to get people on board. It's like, what's he doing? But it's so infectious and we want to share it. So you mentioned the visit with your son. And I know that you mentioned that you're living with your family and that there's been some real shifts in that relationship. So we'd love to hear more about how this understanding has impacted you and the relationship with your family.
Yeah, I love to. That's what I'm living. I'm sort of living in that right now. So that's proper current for me. But it started like when I said I got the understanding and I started to soften on certain things. We'd had an argument on the phone once with my partner and I was just about to say something that I shouldn't have probably said. And I had that moment where I said, don't say it, but I didn't say it. But my ego was telling me, you're an idiot. You should have said it. And I was 100% in thinking, no, you should have said it. You're an idiot. When I went back to myself 3 hours later, I was thinking, oh, good thing you never say that thing, wow. Ooh, yeah. And I thought, hold on. 3 hours ago, it was acceptable. Now it's like, you're lucky. Oh, wow. It's a good thing you never say that thing. So, if you just have that gap, then don't take the action, then, okay. So I made a phone call and said, yeah, do you know what? I'm sorry. Didn't get the, oh, yeah, I understand sort of reply. Just got, yeah, whatever. But sort of from that, I saw that there was a lot of examining that I had to do on where my head was at through a lot of our interaction. So when I've come out, I've been using the principles and obviously I've been using the principles, but I've still some thinking, this is what I've done, principles does for you. Some thinking you think is outside of the principles. So some behaviors that you have don't apply to there's not the same rules over there. It's like quantum physics over there. You're dealing with normal physics there. Yeah, this part's quantum physics. You don't understand this part. Leave that alone. So obviously I was having that same sort of thinking and I thought my relationship with her was in a good space and I'd done everything that I'd done from a bad space, but I was doing it for a good reason. So you must be able to understand. But then in 2000 and same time around about the George Floyd incident, we broke up. She said that she didn't want to be with me anymore. And you got the thing passing. I don't want to get the siren.
It's all part of the London ambience.
Right.
Yeah.
We're in a real city now.
I remember those days in Islington.
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously I'll still have some residual thinking and some residual behaviors, and 2019, she said, you know what, she's had enough. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I got a principal. Like, whoa, what's going on here? And it made me have to look a bit deeper. And I really saw that, like, I'd taken her for granted for a lot of the time I was with her, and I'd sort of just brushed it all over with, yes, the principles now, so let's just move on. And I hadn't really taken time to revisit what I'd really done and what I'd really taken responsibility for, not individually, but anything that she still had thinking about, or she had major thinking about, I should have addressed and gone over it and told her how my thinking shift, because she was still stuck on the actions that I had done then. So then when we bring it up now, I can tell her where my thinking was at, more important than what my actions done. And then she can sort of understand where my actions, why my actions were like that. And it hasn't made it easier. We're not together anymore, but we've got the best relationship now than we ever had. And we're just coming up to 20 years together now. And we've got three beautiful children. And I think, like I said, with my mum, because I'd blamed her for being such a closed person and my heart being closed and not letting anybody in because I didn't want to get hurt. Since I had that insight, my heart's just open. I love anybody. And I know that's why I said my vulnerability is not my weakness, because I put my heart on the table. And because I know it's a strength, it can't get hurt. I'll show my love to anybody. I'll say I love you to anybody in any place, anywhere. If that's how I feel in the moment, then I'll express it. So, like I said, me and my partner ain't together, but I think we've got the best relationship. Now, we do have the best relationship than we've ever had. We can talk and and who knows where that's going to go in the future. But like I said, when we first broke up, I realized that we could get together and I could be happy, or we could not be together and I could still be just as happy. That doesn't determine my happiness, because the same thing, the principles, there's nothing outside of me that can determine my happiness. So if I know that, then I just know that all the happiness comes from in here, and it's just how I choose to share it with people. And if I choose to share it with everybody and anybody that's willing to accept it, then that's what's going to make me happy. And yeah, that's what I'm sort of working through it now, because it is work in progress. So yeah, it's I like to say I'm in a beautiful space, but yeah, no, I'm going to say it. I'm in a beautiful space. I'm going to say it. I'm in a beautiful space.
That is really hopeful and inspiring. And one of the things that Angus say when we work with couples is that we're not attached to them staying together as a result of the work that we do with them, that we really hope that they'll have a deeper connection with their own well-being and love inside of themselves. And from that place, they'll make the decisions that make sense from them. But what you're describing is exactly what we're pointing to, is that when you have that connection, as you're describing it, with that love and that well-being and that peace of mind, it's like the relationship flourishes. Mm-hmm. And the form of the relationship isn't necessarily the most important thing. Like, you're getting to enjoy that beautiful relationship. That seems to be what's important.
Yeah. And like I said, this thing doesn't make me beat myself up over the past 20 years that I've wasted. And I can see opportunities that I've wasted with her. I haven't done things that I probably should have done with her, but I can see that and not beat myself up, and just know that I don't think like that anymore. And moving forward from where I am now, I can not address it, but I can show up as me, as I've meant to have done those many years ago. And that just makes me happy just to be in that space.
That's really beautiful.
It is. Well, when are we going to do the questions? Are we at that point yet?
Well, no, we're not going to do the questions.
Oh, we're not going to do the questions.
No.
I thought we were. Oh, I've got my wires crossed, haven't I? Yes, it's not the... Strike that from the record. The jury can ignore that remark.
Yeah, we now have an exam for you, Derrick. You have
I didn't plan for that. I didn't know
you thought you were going to be on the podcast, but no, you have to pass the test first.
Well, I'll do a quick recovery and get ourselves back on track. Well, I listened to that, and as awkward as that exchange may have sounded, believe you me, it was a lot more awkward to experience and go through, because I really didn't know what was happening. I was always under the impression that we were doing a podcast, but there was something in that exchange that made me question that. And I think that I think you were trying to I guess you were trying to subtly convey to me that that he was indeed separated from his partner, or that they are no longer together. And I must have lost the plot somewhere along the line. And obviously, under those conditions, it would be inappropriate to ask this question.
Well, I didn't think I needed to subtly communicate it to you because he actually said that they broke up.
I know. I guess I missed that. I guess ultimately it would be quite inappropriate to ask a question along the lines of, well, how do you keep physical intimacy alive in your relationship? It would have definitely, I think, been quite problematic. You're right.
Well, what I'm really curious about is why did that not occur to you in the moment?
I don't know. I don't know. I just, as I say, I lost the plot. So what I wanted to say was that just, well, I probably, this is where I would end up, in terms of, this is my first real chance to sort of sit down with you and kind of meet you for the first time. And what I really get a sense about you is that you are an open book, and that book is all about love. And I can see why they would want to have you on the board of the 3BGC, because, you lead with love. I get that real sense about you. And if I want a leader, I want to be a leader who's looking in that direction. And so for me, what you talk about, vulnerability and being that open book and trusting in that part of yourself, which you're referring to as that feeling, is like, that's just such an amazing thing to take on board and to expand into. And I think there's just something so beautiful and so genuine about you. And that's where life feels so much more comfortable, just living in that genuine state, which is for us and all of us is innate and natural. That's the factory default setting, isn't it? We're designed that way, to be open and to be vulnerable and to connect. We're all in this game of life together, and yet we so easily kind of go off into our sort of own internal, personal minded camps. When really at the end of the day, we're all in this together, and let love be the sort of like the soup in which we sip from or we plunge into. I don't know. Let's get really messy with it.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And what you're sharing really points to how the understanding that we're all working from isn't just about relationships. Angus and I chose to do a podcast about rewilding love and relationships, but when we're talking about rewilding love in general, then it applies to every area of life. How can it not? And it has profound impact. And just hearing your journey, hearing where you were able to connect with who you are in a deeper way and feel the authentic, unconditional love that is the essence of who we all are, that one source. As you feel that, every area of your life transformed. And that is just such a great inspiration for all of us to see what's possible.
I love hearing you guys talk, man. You guys explain. Yeah, it's beautiful, man. You see the space that we're all we've occupied here. It just feels so beautiful and just so genuine and pure. It's just been a beautiful experience for me, man. And I love, like I said, I could sit and talk about everything about my life, the whole everything, and I'll just get the same feeling because it's just coming from that same space. And it's like what you said, I never even see it like the rewilding. Like I've rewilded the love in myself. And then that's enabled me to go out and feel the love and be that. Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I love that. I love that.
And so now through sharing here, you're helping others to rewild the love inside themselves. And who knows what the ripple effects are going to be from what you're sharing here and elsewhere. I mean, it's really what a wonderful example.
Yeah. And from that level of understanding, and I think this is just becoming more and more apparent to me, is that you start to let go of judgment, those judgments that sort of really, you feel like you have this opinion of this individual because they're showing up in a way that, you don't necessarily like, let's say, or, from the old paradigm, the old way of seeing things. And now you get to see, well, that judgment, all that's doing is I'm shooting myself in the foot here. I'm creating my own suffering. And to be able to let that go, we have a whole different lens through which we experience the world that we live in. And it just is so much more joy-filled, and so much of the judgments that we feel that kind of like disrupted those relationships. Now we see those people from a vantage point of like, there's their psychological innocence. They're doing the best that they can. We're all in this together. And I can actually, I love you. It's like what it boils down to. I don't hate you.
That's beautiful.
I actually, on a spiritual level, I love you. Yeah. And I don't know, from you, I just really
beautiful, man. Yeah. Because
that's
true,
I want to say that, you're beautiful, because I just really get a sense from like being here now with you is like, I just feel like you really live that. And that's just fantastic. And it's rare, I think, in this day and age to really get a sense of people like they really get this and they really live their life that way. And I think that's admirable and beautiful.
I don't know what to say. That's beautiful what you just said, Angus, man. Beautiful.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I know that I've been deeply impacted by our conversation and by listening to you share and other podcasts and interviews. So I really acknowledge you and thank you for the work that you're doing in the world. And to me, what you were saying in terms of after, the murder of George Floyd, recognizing that more love is needed, and that is what heals. And there's many different ways of going about that. And I'm glad that people play different roles, but to hear you having such a deep connection with that love within yourself and being willing to get uncomfortable, stretch, grow, do paperwork. Like I can only imagine the things that
no, not paperwork.
Emails.
Oh
no. That you're willing to do all of that in order to spread the love in the world. That warms my heart.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rohini.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me. Total pleasure and an honor. And I don't know what to say. I'm speechless. I'm just in that feeling right now, guys.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, me too. And just thank you for being so determined to be you, and you are just so amazing. It's just really wonderful to to be able to be with someone who's just so willing to sort of be open and be honest and be vulnerable. I think that's such a wonderful quality.
And it is contagious, because just in this conversation, I can feel how my heart is more open now as a result of this conversation. So it's really beautiful, especially with all of Angus's shenanigans at the beginning of the conversation. I had judgments running left, right, and center. Why doesn't he have the microphone ready? What's he been doing? Why is he coming back upstairs now?
I know. I'm getting a bit. I feel like I need to go and hide in a cave for the rest of the day. I might be in big trouble now.
You done a brilliant job, man, because that took the edge totally off me, and that just softened me right up. So you had me in the right space from the beginning, Angus. Good plan, Angus.
Yeah, but then we also have to negotiate the fact that I thought we were doing this for something else. Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. We're doing this for our podcast.
We are. Then why didn't we ask the questions then?
Because the questions are for people who aren't broken up.
Oh, well, I don't know. I thought they. Okay, all right. I thought they could still be.
Stop digging.
Derrick, you're just getting a peek into life of the Rosses.
It's beautiful. Oh my God.
You're working with real professionals. What can we say?
I can see it. That's beautiful.
I couldn't understand why we're doing the questions. No, obviously it makes sense.
All right, Derrick. We won't torture you anymore.
I love you too, guys, man.
So great meeting you. I look forward to staying connected.
Yeah,
and at some point we'll be back in London. So maybe we can see you at the conference or somewhere. We'll be in line waiting to speak to you.
No, don't say that.
For sure. No, actually, I'm going to seek you out now without any hesitation.
Definitely, guys. Yeah, it's been beautiful, man. Beautiful.
All right, Derrick.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to Rewilding Love. If you enjoyed this podcast, please let us know by subscribing on iTunes, and we would love for you to leave a review there.
iTunes reviews will steer people to this podcast who need help with their relationships.
If you would like to learn more about our work and our online rewilding community, please visit our website, therewilders.org.
Thanks for listening. Join us next week.